Alright guys, so we will be exploring about HTML5 semantic tags on this segment. We usually use this HTML5 semantic tags directly because the name of the tag itself gives you an idea of what is the purpose of the tag. Like for example, the nav, the header, and the footer. Okay? Next, HTML5 semantic tags. A semantic tag elements clearly describes the meaning of both browser and the developer. Example of non-semantic elements are we have the div, the span that tells nothing about the content, while the semantic elements are forms, tables, and image or the img. It clearly defines its content. Okay? So we have here an example of non-semantic element. So we have division. So inside the division, you can put anything like, for example, a quote, a paragraph, or a biography. So meaning, you don't have any idea what is inside here. Okay? So article is now an example of a semantic tag. So for the article, for the word itself, article, you can identify directly what's the meaning and purpose of this semantic element. Okay? So it's for the article. Next, so here are some examples of semantic tags or HTML5 semantic tags. So the main, so you could use the main content of the web page for the unique page of the entire document. And then you could use also section. So it defines a certain section of a web page. So for example, you have the content list, contacts, and many more. Another example is the article. So it defines a bit of content which make up an article. So examples, if you are developing a blog spot or news post. Next is the aside. You could use the aside. If you're developing a website, then you could put aside for your advertisements. Okay? And we have the header and footer. So the header defines the header of the website, contains the navigation, the title, the image, and many more. Okay, how about the footer? Of course, the footer defines the website. So it includes the subscription and additional details of the website. Here is an example of an HTML5 semantic elements that define the different parts of the web page. So let's say for example, if you are developing any web application or website, then the graphical presentation. So you could put a header at the top, and you could put also the footer at the bottom for additional information. Then the navigation, the links, and the section, if you put a section, an article content, and you could put aside on your ads or advertisements. Alright guys, so the first HTML5 semantic tag that I am going to introduce is the section. So the section element defines a section in a document, and a section is a way of grouping a content. So let's say for example, a website's homepage could be split into section for introduction, content, and many more. Okay, so let's start. So let's say for example, section. So under the section, guys, we will be creating a title. So let's say for example, each one, and then let's provide a content: Jaguars basketball club. There you go. So inside the section again, we will create a paragraph. Okay, so P, and then we will create now our default content. So you could just type lorem and then press tab so that you could generate the default content of the page. So I will just make this readable to you guys. Okay, like so, and save this one. So if we are going to preview this on the browser, there you go guys. So plainly HTML. Okay, one thing that I am going to introduce or discuss guys is the parent and child element. So inside the section, so this is the section, we have h1 and p tag. So this could be our child and section is our parent. Again, this section is our parent element, and the h1 tag and p tag is our child element. So we will be using this on CSS style shortly. How to declare a parent and child in CSS style. Okay, so let's start. So but before that, guys, we will create the class for this section. Okay, so class. So let's say, for example, the name of the class is page 1. Okay, and then let's go here on our CSS, and then let's create a declaration. So to start with the class, you need to put period and then the name of the class, which is page 1, and then the declaration, guys. So let's say, for example, the first declaration that we are going to put is the background color of our page. Okay, so let's say, for example, background color, and let's put the background color gray. Next is the border radius. So the purpose of the border radius gives you a border in a form of rounded corner. So I will be showing this shortly. Okay, so let's say, for example, border radius, and then it's gonna be 10 pixels. Okay, and then, guys, we will create also a border. Okay, so let's say, for example, border, border, and then inside the border we will create pixels. So pixels, 1 pixels, for example, and then it's gonna be solid red. So let's try to preview this, guys, on our browser so that we could check what is the output of our CSS style. Okay, so let's go to the browser and preview. So there you go, guys. So this would be our border color red, and the background color is gray. Okay, so there you go. So let's go back here on our style. Okay, so next property that we are going to put is the margin. Okay, so the margin, so let's say, for example, 1 pixels to 10 pixels to 1 pixels to 10 pixels. Okay, so I will be explaining this one. So actually, the margin are used to generate space around the element. So the first value is for the top. The second value would be on the right. The third value would be on the bottom, and this last value would be on the left, meaning top, right, bottom, left. Okay, so let's save this and preview it on the browser. And there you go, guys. So there are margins here and here, 1, 1, 10, and 10. Okay, so let's go back here and let's create a padding. It's because we will be using this padding to generate space around the content. Okay, so let's say, for example, padding 20 pixels. Okay, so if you put 20 pixels on the padding, so it would give 20 pixels top, 20 pixels bottom, 20 pixels left and right. Okay, so let's say save this one and preview it on the browser, and there you go, guys. Guys, as I have said, there is what we call parent and a child element. Alright, guys, so I will be discussing what is the purpose of this parent and child element. So as you can see, this is our parent element, and inside the parent element we have this h1 and p, which is our child element. Okay, so how to use this one on our CSS? Okay, so you need to declare first the parent, which is the page 1, and then space the name of our child element. Let's say, for example, h1. Okay, because here each one is our child element. Okay, so let's go back here and let's create declaration. So let's say for example the font family is Tahoma. All right. Next is the color of the text. So let's say for example maroon, right? And then next is it would align it center, or text align center. Okay, so you could use center and justify, left, right, start, inherit, initial, and unset. Okay, so try those value also. Okay, so let's say for example center, and then let's preview this on the browser. And there you go, guys. So the text is in the middle and in a form of Tahoma. Okay, so now let's design this content also. Okay, so let's go back here on our CSS page, and then okay, so let's create a design for the paragraph. So let's say for example the parent, the page 1. Okay, and then the P, which is the paragraph, and then let's create a declaration here. Okay, let's say for example font family Tahoma, the color black default, and then align justify. Okay, so align text align justify. Alright, so let's save this one and then preview it on the browser. Oops, there you go, guys. So looks beautiful. Okay, so the next HTML5 semantic tag is the article element. It specifies independent, self-contained content, and the article should make sense on its own, and it should be possible to read it independently from the rest of the website. Examples of where the article element can be used is the forum post, the blog post, newspapers article, and many more. Okay, so let's start. So let's say for example article. So let's create an article here, article, and then inside the article, so let's create a title. So each one, and then let's say for example club's mission. Okay, and then let's create a paragraph also. So inside the paragraph, this would be our content from mission club or club missions. Okay, so let's create a default lorem, and I'll make this readable to you guys. Okay, like so, and save. So if we are going to preview this on the browser and purely HTML also. Okay, so let's design this on the CSS. But before that, guys, I will just explain this again. This would be our parent, and this would be our child element. Okay, the article is our parent element. The h1 and p also is our child element from the parent article. Okay, so let's give class name page 2. Okay, so for example, and then let's go here on our style, and let's create a design for our article. Okay, so let's say for example, to start with the class period page 2, and then the declaration. So the first declaration, so let's say for example the width of our article is 300 pixels. Okay, and then the margin is auto. So when we talk about auto, it would give equal value from the top, left, bottom, and right. Okay, and then let's give also the border. The border, oops, the border. Let's say for example 1 pixels, and solid solid red. Okay, let's preview this on the browser, and there you go, guys. Next, we are going to design the child inside the article element. Let's go back here and page 2, and then space each one, and then let's say for example text align center. Okay, and then let's save this one and preview it on the browser. Okay, preview, and our each one is in the center. Okay, so what if, guys, I will be combining all of the child from the section parent. So I will be designing it by one, meaning I will be combining multiple selectors. Okay, so all you need to do is to create a comma here and add additional child, like for example the each one and p, and then let's say for example I will change this one into the value is to justify, and then color, so black, and then the font family, it's gonna be Tahoma, and then the margin, let's say for example the margin is 20 pixels from top to bottom and left to right. Okay, so 20 pixels, and saved, and let's preview this on the browser, and there you go, guys. Okay, so next HTML5 semantic tag is the header. So the purpose of header element specifies a header for a document or a section. Okay, so a header element is usually used as a container for introductory statement. Okay, so let's say for example at the top of the section and article, so I will be putting my header. Okay, so let's say header, and then inside the header, let's say h1, and then I will put a content. Let's say for example Jaguars basketball club. Okay, so we will be designing this header to our CSS style. Okay, so let's go to our CSS style. Okay, and then first we will create a selector, so the header. Okay, so header, and then we will create a declarations. Okay, so the property and value. So first is the background color. The background color is orange. Let's say for example orange, and then padding. So let's say for example 5 pixels, top, bottom, left, and right. And then we will align the text center. Okay, so align text center. Oops. Text align center. Okay, and then let's save this and preview it on our browser. Okay, so there you go, guys. So next thing is we are going to design this h1 element. Okay, so let's go back here and let's say header space h1, so that we could specify the h1 inside the header parent. Okay, so we will create now a declaration. So let's say for example the color of the text is white. Okay, and then the border, so let's create a border. The border is, let's say for example 7 pixels, and the color is solid white. Okay, and then let's add another declaration, the padding. Okay, so the padding, so let's say for example from the top 6 pixels and 12 pixels. Okay, so that's okay. So let's save this and preview it on the browser. Okay, so this would be our border. So I want it, guys, that the border is only here on our text. Okay, so I will add radius so that it would give additional design. Okay, so let's go back here on our text editor. So let's say for example display, and it's gonna be inline block. So the purpose of this inline block is to stay the element in the current block. Okay, and then the border, let's say for example border radius. So the purpose of this border radius, so it would add a radius or a round corners of our element. So let's say for example 40 pixels. Okay, so let's save this and preview it on the browser. Okay, and there you go, guys. So let's say for example this is my header. So anyway, guys, you could create your own header if you want. Okay, so I will give distance on this content. Let's go back here, and we have here the page 1 from the top. So let's say for example 15 and save, and there you go, guys. So great. Okay, alright then. So since we have a header, then we must have also the footer. So the footer element specifies a footer for a document or section. So a footer element should contain information about its containing element. So let's, for example, the footer typically contains the author of the document, the copyright information, links to the terms of use, contact information, and etc. Okay, so let's say for example copyright 2020 at Jaguars Basketball Club. Okay, so let's create here at the bottom part of our page. Okay, so let's say for example footer. Okay, so inside the footer, so let's say it's 5, and then copyright, let's say copyright 2020 at Jaguars Basketball Club. Okay, so we will be designing this. Okay, so let's go to our CSS design. So we will add a footer. So let's say for example footer, there we go, and then let's add declaration. So let's say for example the background color. Okay, background color orange, the same with the color of our header, and then the color of the text black, that's default, and then the color, after the color we have the padding. So let's put a padding. So let's say for example 1 pixels, and then text align center. Okay, so align text, text align center. Okay, and then let's add a font family, which is the Homa, the same with our header. Okay, so let's save this, guys, and preview it on the browser. Okay, so there you go, guys. So this would be our footer. So inside the header and footer, so we have our body of our page or the content. Okay, so the next HTML5 semantic tag is the nav or the navigation. So the nav element defines a set of navigation links. Okay, so we will create a navigation bar or navigation links here on our web page. Okay, so the nav element is intended for a large block of navigation links, but however, not all links in the document should be inside the nav element. Okay, so we will create a navigation bar here. So after the header, so I will be putting a navigation. So let's say for example nav, and then inside the nav I will create a UL. Okay, so UL or the unordered list. Okay, so inside the unordered list I will create list. So let's say for example list. So inside the list I will create an anchor tag or a link. So let's say for example A, and then I will say home. So I will just copy this one and paste it down. Okay, paste, and paste. So let's say for example the second one is latest games. Okay, the third one, let's say for example contact us, and the last one about us. Okay, so if we are going to preview this on the browser, then this would be the purely HTML navigation. Then we will create a design for this navigation. Okay, so let's go to our CSS design, and then let's create a design first for the UL. Okay, so let's say for example nav UL, and then let's say for example list style type. So you could choose list or let's say for example none, and margin, it's gonna be 0, and the padding another 0, and then for the overflow it must be hidden. Okay, and the background color of our nav is, let's say for example, is gray. Okay, so the background color is gray. Okay, so let's save this and preview it on our browser. Okay, so there you go. So there is a gray background. So now let's design for our LI. Okay, so let's go back here and let's say nav LI, and then let's create a design. So let's say for example let's float this one left. Oops. Okay, left. So let's preview this, and there you go guys. So float, and then let's design for the A, because here on our HTML, after the LI we have the A, which is for our anchor. So let's design this link. Okay, so let's say for example nav A, and then our design for our link, let's say for example display inline block. Okay, so inline block, and then the color, let's say for example white. Okay, and align center, text align center. There you go. And let's create a padding so that there would be space from the text. Padding 14 pixels from the top, and 16 pixels, and text decoration is none. Okay, so text decoration is none, so that the underline from the text would be omitted. Okay, so let's say none, and save this one and preview it on the browser. And there you go, guys. Okay, so another features of CSS is the pseudo elements, which is the hover. So if I am going to hover this home, latest games, or let's say whatever the things that I am going to hover here on our navigation, then it would, let's say for example, change the color. Okay, so let's go back here on our CSS, and then so we will create a pseudo element for our navigation bar. Okay, so let's say for example nav. Next is our li tag, and then inside the li tag, so we have our the anchor tag. So in declaring the pseudo element in CSS, you need to write this, and then word hover, and then let's say for example, once we hover the text, what would be the color? Okay, so the color is let's say for example black, and save this one and preview it on the browser. Okay, so if we hover the text, then it would change to black color. Okay, so there you go, guys. So those are examples of HTML5 semantic tag or tags. Okay.